Very good morning to all of you. And I consider it my privilege to be, at this function. Thanks to Binu Cherian, who has uh, introduced a very important subject for consideration of policymakers. And I'm a big fan of biofortified uh, grains and as such the principles of biofortification. So let us view it from the lens of, whether it be nutrition or agriculture or health. I'm a health professional by training, so I would focus a little bit on health as well. But all these sectors are not to be treated in isolation or in silos. There is an intersection between health, nutrition, agriculture, education, as a matter of fact, across 14 ministries where we are addressing in POSHAN 2.0, which is the flagship program of Government of India for alleviation of malnutrition and particularly anemia. Now, over the past decade, our approach to food has changed. We don't talk about, whether it be agriculture or we talk about the food system as such. So, availability, affordability, and access to food becomes important, along with the environmental effects and all. So I consider this as a perfect storm. Normally, a storm cannot be perfect, but this is a perfect storm in the sense that we know the solutions. The solutions are in clear sight. We just have to implement those solutions, and there is so much of churning going on, so much of thinking. We are all here, you are all champions for biofortification in this hall. And through the day, we will be discussing various aspects. So I think this is time not for incremental changes. This is a time for disruption. A massive disruption should take place in our agronomic practices and the seeds and the, making it not only diverse, but also inclusive and with equity. We call it the DIA. Now, the Honorable Prime Minister dedicated 17 biofortified crops. It was 2020 and on the World Food Day. And our scientists have worked hard to bring these crops into the public domain. It becomes the duty of each one of us to make a kind of a consortium to drive this agenda forward. Because while the scientists have done their work, the onus falls upon you and me to take it forward. We find that about 1 billion people suffer from hidden hunger, micronutrient deficiency, one or the other. Government of India has, various programs, you would know, vitamin A supplementation, IFA supplementation, iodine supplementation, vitamin D we are talking about, B12, folate, so on and so forth. But these are vertical programs, and the coverage is less for supply chain issue, whatever it is. To my mind, biofortification is a one-stop solution where we are giving not only one micronutrient, but it is in the form of a whole grain or a whole fruit or, the vegetable, wherever it is used. So as a clinician, I feel that we need a team of micronutrients to work to accomplish the job they are meant to do. And if you pop in a pill, it would, whether it be, uh, let us say, uh, vitamin C or B complex, that would just be one. But here, if food becomes the carrier, then it is a food to food fortification, which to my mind is very impressive. One thing I would want to relate to you. I was in Hyderabad uh, last week, and I visited Rainbow Children's Heart Hospital. I was surprised to see that newborn, born to, like 10 days, 15 days, had cardiomegaly, enlarged heart. And these people were very flabbergasted as to what could be the reason for an enlarged heart, and quite a few cases, not one, two, but there were many. And it came out that during pregnancy, the mothers were deficient in thiamine, B1, vitamin B1. So they did thiamine estimation in these newborns, and they were also found to be very deficient in thiamine. Now, thiamine deficiency causes beriberi, an enlargement of the heart, and neuro symptoms of the CNS, also edema, all that. So these children were given IV infusion of thiamine, and lo and behold, they recovered. They became fine. The point I'm trying to make is that so many diseases are preventable, and we should find solutions as to how these could be prevented. I'm not against industrial fortification, but I find that between the two options, biofortification would yield better results. As a clinician, I also find that there is a increased prevalence of diseases like, we call it the cardiometabolic dysregulation, hypertension, diabetes, dyslipidemia, fatty liver disease. Fatty liver, 35% of the general population would be suffering from fatty liver disease, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and anemia, of course, cancers, cardiovascular disease, so on and so forth. Now, this paradigm has changed. The epidemiological shift from communicable to non-communicable diseases, and this is one of our greatest challenge. What we find is that the root cause in all these happens to be a low-grade inflammation, which could be leaky gut syndrome or other, but because we have found inflammatory markers, biomarkers in these diseases. Therefore, our food should contain, all the necessary nutrients, because these diseases are foodable. They are not druggable. There is no drug which can reverse diabetes. There is no drug which can reverse hyper. You will have to take it lifelong. What you can do is prevent these diseases. And there, food becomes a very important remedy. Now, I was also, just to conclude, we'll have discussions through the day, but I was also part of the Dietary Guidelines for Indians 2024. These dietary guidelines have been released, and I urge all of you to take a look at these dietary guidelines. The ICMR, NIN have released these guidelines, and we have redefined many things, including for population studies, we have said EAR, the expected average requirement, instead of RDA. For personalized nutrition, it could be RDA. Also, we have mentioned about an NIN plate, how much of cereals one should have, pulses, milk, dairy products and all. Point I'm trying to make is that cereals is something like 270 grams of intake for an average adult. Now, what we find is that the nutrient density of these grains has fallen over the since 1960s and 70s. The, the nutrients which wheat or rice or any other thing would contain, they have decreased to the extent of 10, 15, 20%. Now, I can consume only that amount of cereal. I cannot take 400 grams of cereal. So I would need to pop up my nutrient level in that limited amount of cereal, which is recommended for a dietary intake for an individual. And therefore, again, the role of biofortification becomes paramount, very important. The other thing that comes to my mind is that, we are doing a diet and biomarker survey, and it's across 28 states, the biggest survey, the NFHS that you pointed out. This would give us real values for hemoglobin, and between NFHS 4 and 5, anemia has increased, to my surprise. Whereas we have a program since 1970, anemia prophylaxis program, where we are giving IFA. So what could be those causes of increase despite food fortification, despite IFA tablet, despite other means of iron intake? Anemia is on the rise, and therefore we also need to consider chronic systemic inflammation, which could be a confounder. So not going too much into technicalities, I would only say that we have to all come together and build up on this agenda, drive this agenda, be agents of change, and I'm sure that looking at the, the tremendous value biofortification holds, we'll be able to take this agenda forward. Thank you so much.
I think it deserves a bigger round of applause. Very technically sound, but at the same time, very grounded understanding for us to really take this whole aspect of nutrition through biofortification in a more structured way. The statistics he offered actually are eye-opener for us to look at how food is the real medicine, not the drugs.